Welcome to the Women's Motorsports Network podcast, the show that puts the spotlight on the incredible women who fuel the world of motorsports. From drivers to crew members, engineers to fans, and everyone in between, we're here to celebrate the trailblazers, dreamers, and doers shaping the sport we love. Each episode, we share inspiring stories of females of all ages from every corner of the motorsports universe, past, present, and future. It's a journey through the seasons of life filled with heartfelt moments, laughter, and a whole lot of horsepower. So whether you're a lifelong fan, a racer yourself, or simply curious about the extraordinary women behind the wheel, settle in, relax, and enjoy a fun and uplifting ride with us. This is the Women's Motorsports Network podcast, connecting and celebrating women in motorsports, one story at a time. Let's hit the track. Hello, everyone. This is Melinda Russell with the Women's Motorsports Network podcast. And Jazmine is my guest today. And Jazmine, welcome to the show. I'm so glad you could be with me on this very chilly day in Indiana and Michigan. And so let's start by learning a little bit more about you. Do you want to share some things about yourself?
Sure. So I have a 4-year little boy. That he's just in love with racing. I part as a mom.
Yeah.
I just recently got married. I've been racing since I was about 5 years old. And yeah.
And you live in Indiana?
Yep.
Okay. And do you work or go to school or?
I work at an elementary school.
Okay. So you do both. You
Yeah.
go to school to work. Yeah. Okay, good. So Jazmine, you started racing when you were 4 years old. So somebody had to introduce you to the sport of motorsports. Why
Yes.
don't you tell us your story? How did you get started? And then take us through the years until we get to where you are today.
Okay, so I was like 4 or 5 years old, and my dad got me into go-karts. And so we would race in Ohio like every weekend. And then I did racing up there, and then I took a break for a while, and then I started racing at New Paris Speedway in Indiana in 2019,
Okay.
and I was in the diva class for I think it was 2 years, and so it was like all girls. The diva class was all girls, and there was roughly between like 5 to like 15-ish cars every weekend, depending on the weekend, and I had a championship almost all season, and then I had to miss a weekend, so I took third in divas 2 years in a row, and then they got rid of divas, and then I was in the Hornet class, which is just like the divas, it's just with the guys and the girls.
Right.
So I was in the Hornet class for the first time 2 years ago, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
And just this past season, so 2024 season, I was running with all these men and a couple other ladies, and I had championship the last night of racing. I went too fast and lost championship.
Oh,
Yeah.
no.
Yeah, it was the last night of the season, and everyone was rooting for me. I mean, I had a lot going, and I just went too fast, and I was like, ugh.
Oh, that just makes me sick for
But
you.
but that shows me that I can do it. I can
You
run,
can do it.
you know what I mean?
Yes, absolutely. It
But
gives you the confidence to know that when you're back in that situation, you know exactly what you need to do.
yeah. So it's like, to me, I proved to all these girls, like, just because there's guys out here that have been doing this sport for 50 years,
Yeah,
you can go out there and do the same thing.
exactly.
Like, as long as you know what you're doing and you have, the right mindset and everything. In my head, I won championship.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
At it.
And the fact that you went too fast, I
Yeah.
guess, is more comforting than if your car had broken or whatever, because you can go faster,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Everyone's like, why don't we get you in a different class? How about you try like outlaw? And I'm like, Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, let me think about that
But
for
yes,
sure.
kind of a rough season. A few nights I had DNFs. Um, one night, so I'm kind of known for this now. One night I was sitting third place in my feature, and I was coming down the front stretch, and my tire flew off, and it bounced down the front stretch, and it landed in the back of my car.
Oh my gosh. That's too funny.
And there's a video, but I did end up getting a concussion from it.
Mm. But
But
you couldn't have done that if you'd have tried.
no.
That's just too funny. Not the concussion part, but the tire part is too funny.
Right.
Right. So, what are you going to be racing? Are you going to be at New Paris this year?
I'm gonna try to go for some like the bigger shows.
Okay.
Get out more and go to different tracks. Like I've only done Kalamazoo once.
Okay.
Got a few more times. I want to. Plymouth is kind of a drive like Kalamazoo, but I just want to get out there. Like, yeah, New Paris is home track, but
Mm-hmm.
I've got my name out there so far this past season. Like, I just got to keep going.
Yeah.
You know, and New Paris already knows, like, oh, this girl pretty much had championship. She got it.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, so it's like, I'm
My
going to try
my
track.
granddaughter went to Plymouth, and I know that's a big race, and there's a lot of cars, but it's also good competition.
Yes.
And Kalamazoo too. That's my home track.
Yes.
I'm only about 20 minutes from there, and again, good competition.
Mhm.
So it doesn't hurt to get out there and
Yeah.
get out of your comfort zone a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. So do you still race? It's called Hornets, you said?
Yes.
Yeah, and that's what you'll still be racing because
Yeah.
yeah, every track kind of has their own name for it. So yeah,
I,
okay,
I want to try. My dad wants me in a straight stock, but I'm like,
yeah. You have to be the one that's ready,
yeah.
not your dad.
Yeah.
And street stocks it's a jump. It really is
Yes.
and the thing about street stocks is what I've noticed, very competitive class at like every track.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to be the one that says, yes, this is what I want to do and I'm ready to try this. And even if you're the slowest one the first couple years, doesn't
Yeah.
matter. You got to get your feet wet in that class because there's some
Yes.
people that race in that class that have raced it a long time and they're really good at it. And so you just take your time and learn what you have to learn and you'll get there. I know you'll get there for sure.
I had some girls that raced Hornets with me, like I can think of a couple. Kelsey Fletcher and Brianna Rumball. They ran Hornets, and now they're in street stocks. And
Hmm.
they started out slow, and they're moving up. Brianna had some wins. I think Kelsey had a win or two. And I mean, you don't know unless you try.
That's right.
You
That's
know,
right.
because
Yeah,
so it's like I know I can do it too. It's just I gotta move slowly up there.
that's okay. You can take your time. There's no rush about it for sure. So, what's been your biggest challenge as far as you've been racing a long time, but it's different when you jump up to race with adults, and especially the men. The women are pretty competitive, and I know that was a competitive class down there. But when you jump up to the next class where it's guys like you said been racing for a long time and that, what was the hardest thing to overcome or your biggest challenge?
I think my biggest challenge was learning to actually run with the men. Because from a group of girls that were still learning,
Mm-hmm.
who I had almost all the Hornet drivers teaching me every weekend. Because they say, oh, you got to know your line. I'm like, what line? What are you
Yeah.
talking about? I don't see no line.
Yeah.
Like, I would ask them, like, hey, like, I know once you hit that track, nobody is your teammate, nobody's your friend. Like, you got to focus on yourself in your own car and you do your own thing.
Right.
Some pointers. I need to still be taught some things. I'm still learning. And honestly, I challenged myself to race in the Hornets with all the grown men. And I'm not going to lie, like the first few races I had in the Hornets, I would just follow them. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to figure out this line that they're talking about because
Mm-hmm.
the line they're talking about. And I got the hang of it. And then now they're like now you caught on and then now you're keeping up. And
Yeah.
so, I mean, Yeah,
That's good.
challenge
You
is
know, I often hear him talk about when like a cup driver goes down and races a truck race. And, there's two opinions about whether they should be able to do that or not. But the guys who run the truck races or Xfinity, they like it
hmm
because they did what you did. They follow and they watch what those successful drivers are doing.
Yep.
That's how they learn. And so that's what you were doing.
hmm I had to because I was like,
Hmm.
nowhere to go. I don't know, like, because I had one of my biggest issues racing was I would hug the inside,
Hmm.
and I pull myself out of that. And so that probably took me 2 years to get away from that because
Yeah.
dad told me, you're losing momentum if you stay on the inside, and you have a car that sticks to the outside, and it just, once you hit those corners, you just like, it's just so smooth. And
Hmm.
I didn't know what he was talking about until I actually tried to get myself away from hugging the inside of the track. And I'm like, okay, I got this.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's just what you get, especially when you're new,
Yes.
you don't know. And it's kind of like, okay, I'm comfortable here on the inside. And you got to push yourself to do something different. And that's just part of the whole learning curve.
Yep.
That's what they call seat time for sure.
Oh,
Did
yeah.
you did you ever feel like you didn't fit in? Like when you went from the diva class to the other class, did you ever feel like you didn't fit in, or because you were at the same track, they already knew you and it wasn't a big deal?
No, it wasn't a big deal. I just squeezed right in, and
Okay.
they
And
knew.
they didn't treat you badly or anything.
Nope.
That's good.
Nope. They knew I was coming, and they knew I was going to
Yeah.
the best, and that's what I did. And
Yeah. They run a good track down there for sure. So they don't usually put up with much of that anyway, but I was just curious.
yeah.
Yeah. So do you work on your car too, or have you learned things like that, or does somebody else kind of do that and you're more the driver?
So I try to help them. Like, I'm still learning, but my husband, my dad, and my brother, they do a lot of the work.
Okay.
Um, if it's like the tires and stuff, then yeah, they'll have me do it or like walk me through it. But if it's like my head gasket blew last year, and I went through 3 cars, so there's a lot of work to be done, and I was just like overwhelmed, and I was like, I don't know what you guys are doing.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the same as driving. It takes time. You got to learn a few things at a time, and you can't begin to learn it all. That's for sure. But sounds like you've got good help.
Oh yeah.
So you work a job. You have a little boy, 4 years old, full of energy, loves racing. You have a home that you have to take care of. How do you take care of yourself? How do you find a life balance with all the things that are going on?
Um, Honestly, I just take it day by day.
Okay.
Just I'm kind of like go with the flow type of person. So it's just,
Whatever happens today, you take care of it. And
yeah, racing season is kind of hectic and super busy and overwhelming. But like the off season, it's more calm and I'm like
mhm.
stressed out. But race season, whew.
Yeah.
Friday
And
night,
then who helps you with your little guy when you're racing?
what's that?
Who helps you with your little boy when you're racing?
Um, Himself.
Yeah.
He just
Yeah.
follows, and then he will bring his own tools and work on his own, like his little bike. He has a balance bike, and so he'll try to work on his own stuff while we're trying to work on the cars. And yeah, everybody at the racetrack at New Paris knows him, so he just does his thing. And when we go out on the track, because sometimes, so like it's a family thing, so not only do I race, but my husband does, my brother, my dad, and that's our pit crew. And so most of the time we don't have anybody to like watch him. So I'll drive my car up there, get lined up, and he'll go sit on the bleachers by himself. And then he's like, go, mom, go.
Oh, that's great. And he's only 4 years old, but
Yeah.
he's grown up there. And
Oh,
so yeah, so he's used to being there. So that's good for sure.
he loves it.
So when you have a bad night at the racetrack, which everybody does, how do you handle that? Are you one that goes to the trailer and you cry? Do you what do you do?
So On a normal bad night, yeah, I usually just go to the trailer because if not, then, it'll get out of hand. But I just go to the trailer and just let it all out. But the night I lost championship, yeah, that wasn't a good night.
No.
I was really stressed out. I was really overwhelmed because the night started out bad to begin with. My qualifying time wasn't where I wanted it to be. And I was like, well, I can go out in my heat and get a better time. Well, that's when I blew my time, was in the heat. So I didn't get to run my feature on the last night. Yeah.
Oh.
So now looking back, I'm like, man, I should have just sat out on my heat and just ran my feature. But, it happens.
Yeah.
But I went to the trailer that night, and like some of the tech guys came down to check on me, and I was just crying. I was like, I worked so hard for this.
Yeah.
But like I said, in my head, I won that.
Yeah.
I just got a little over my head a little bit and just
Mm-hmm.
went too fast.
Yeah. And it's kind of a life lesson, that things happen then, and really it was in your control, but you didn't realize
Yeah.
that it was. And so,
I,
it's just
I,
one of those things. We have to learn how to deal with adversity. And
it's really hard. Like once somebody's like in their zone and just really focused, it's really hard to be like, oh man, I need to slow down.
hmm, yeah, for sure. So what's your typical race day look like? Do you always, like, I always wear the same shirt, I do this, I do that, or is it just whatever? You said you're a go with the flow kind of girl.
Yeah.
You just whatever needs done, you do it.
So we're usually pretty up early, especially if there's all of us racing in one night. We try to have the cars around by Friday night, so we're not running around Saturday morning.
Mm-hmm.
um, but so Saturday morning, we make sure everything's in the trailer. We still forget something every weekend. It happens.
Mm-hmm.
And so we make sure the trailer's around and load the cars, strap them down, make sure we have our fire suits and stuff, and then we'll leave, hit the gas station for race fuel, and then head to the track and then do our thing.
Now, do you race against your husband and your brother and your father?
Yes.
You're all in the same class.
Yes, most nights, yes.
How does that go?
Not very good. Not very good. So there was one night, it was me and my dad were racing, and we were in the same class that night, well, the same race, and I led the whole heat race, so 8 laps, led the whole thing. Tell me why, on coming up in the last lap, coming into turn 3, my dad takes me on the inside, and he's like racing in the grass. He'll tell you he wasn't, but he was. And our doors were hitting like this, like really bad. So he's racing in the grass on the inside, and I'm like this, and we go around 3 and 4, and he gets the checkered.
Oh,
Racing the grass. He's like, well, you shouldn't have left the inside open. I was like, really? Really?
yeah, Dad, I'm really disappointed in you. Yeah, for sure. Oh
But
gosh.
all of us, I think my brother is the most competitive. Like he has a hard head. So it's kind of, because sometimes I'm like, okay, you're going to, be my partner out there. And he's like, no. And I'm like, you're not going to help me out? And he's like, no, race your race. And if you win, you win. He's like, if I win, I win. And I was like, okay, so it's competition now.
Hmm. Is he younger or older?
He's a few years younger.
Okay.
Yeah.
So he doesn't want his big sister to beat him.
No.
No. Not for sure he doesn't.
Because New Paris has like their announcer and stuff, and so like the owners know us, the announcer knows us like personally. So like when we're all out there, the announcements are so funny.
Yeah.
So
I bet so.
yeah, my brother's like, I can't repeat me.
Yeah. That's fun. But doesn't that give you good memories?
It does. It does.
Yeah, it really does.
Then you have my friends recording our race, and then recording my son cheering for us on the bleachers, and he's like, "Go mom, go mom!"
Hmm.
I love that.
Those are priceless.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely priceless. So I know there are a good number of girls that race at New Paris. Um, do you ever have any younger little girls like come up to you, or do you ever, that are your fans or anything? I'm just curious how you feel about encouraging little girls to be part of motorsports.
Oh yeah, I think the most I have, like they'll have autograph night.
Hmm.
And I think that's the biggest night where all the kids will come up to me and they're like, "Are you the race car driver that drives the blue 00?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And they're like, "That's so cool." And they're like, "I want to race like you." And it just like makes me want to cry because like I was one of them.
Yeah.
I was one of them before. I used to sit in those stands and be like, "Okay, I'm going to be in a race car one day." Uh,
Hmm.
Like back then, like when I was watching from the bleachers, there wasn't very many girls.
Yeah.
And now it's like there's probably a good 5 or 6 girls that race at New Paris that I can think of. And I think we get the most attention over the guys with the kids because it's just like, wow, a girl,
Yeah.
it's just the looks on their faces are just priceless. Like,
Yeah, I think, well, typically sometimes the girls do get more attention because there's not as many of you. And so, that's part of it. Or, just personalities, your personality might be one reason that you get more attention. But I love that little girls especially can see other women that are in motorsports in whatever capacity, and it gives them the confidence that they can do it too.
hmm and they always ask me, like, even on like a regular race night, they're like, "Can I get a picture with you?" Or if I win like a heat or a feature, and they allow the fans to come down, my pictures are usually loaded with little kids, and you know, and for this is like the biggest memory I have from last season. So autograph night. I made something special for the kids, and I was like, okay, I'm like, okay, what can I make for them? Like they can keep. Well, you know how they blow up your face and then they put it on a stick and it's like a little fan. I
Yeah.
and they were so popular and the kids loved them. So when I was racing, all I seen was my face on a stick waving in the stands, and I'm like, I love that.
That is a great idea. People should copy that idea because that's really cool, and they could use it all year long.
Yes, they loved it. They're like, "Do you have any more?" I'm like, "No, we're gone in 5 minutes."
You're going to have to make a whole bunch of them this winter and have them ready.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So I was going to ask you what your favorite memory was, but that sounds like a pretty good one for sure. Um, so do you think that because you've been involved in motorsports that it has changed you in any way or made you into the person you are? Just things that you've learned through motorsports, or that more so maybe than other sports?
So I think it's made me who I am today. So like I really wasn't into sports when I was in school. So like getting out of school, I was, because I only raced go-karts for a few years. And then I stopped for quite a while. And then I was like, okay, what can I do? So then my dad got me into racing, and I just feel like racing makes me a better person. Like, I don't know. It's hard to explain. Like I feel like racing is my sport because I didn't play sports in high school, you know? So,
Mhm.
yeah.
Well, and racing teaches us things, and this is hard to explain to people who are not involved in motorsports. And I hear this a lot. It's first of all, it's a family.
Mhm.
It's a close family, and yet, even if they're blood relatives, when you get out on the track, they're your competitors.
Mhm.
But you're still family, and if anybody needs anything on or off the track or away from the track, we're all there for each other. And I don't care where you live. That's true. The word spreads,
Yep.
through all the racing communities. And I just think that, it's a sport where, yes, you're the driver, you're responsible for going too fast. And yet, you've got your dad, your husband, your brother, who are part of your team when you're not out on the track. There's so many things that go together to make you able to be on the track, because we know you don't just take your car home and park it and then haul it back to the track the next week. I mean, I don't know anybody that does that. everybody goes home and they clean it, they tweak it, they do whatever. Um, it's a full-time job.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really is.
Overwhelming.
It can be overwhelming. And I think I talk to so many women that, they do work and they have a family and they still have to do laundry and they still are responsible mostly for the meals and cleaning and all the things that women do. Not to say that men don't do things too, but I concentrate on the women and what they have to juggle in order to get everything done at home and be able to race and go to the racetrack. And it can be very overwhelming.
Yep.
Yeah, for sure. How old are you, Jazmine? Do you mind me asking?
I'll be 24 next month.
I thought you were in your early 20s. You look young. So, at 24, there's some kids that are just barely out of college
Mm-hmm.
or only out for a couple of years. And, I think overall, a lot of the women that race, and especially the younger ones, when I talk to younger girls, even 18 and under, they're much more grown up at a younger age. And I think a lot of it has to do with the juggling things, making sure things, our school is good, all those things. And they just grow up and they have to deal with adversity because you lose more than you win. I don't care who you are.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Yeah, for sure. So you're 23, 24 years old. You're probably going to race for quite a number of years. What do you want people to remember about Jazmine when she's done racing?
That I always showed up and just, whether it was a bad night or a good night, I did my best, and
Mm-hmm.
they knew I was there. Like, yeah,
You never gave up.
gave up, always tried, whether it was a bad night or not. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good legacy to leave for sure. So, how do you use social media, and how can we follow you or find you as far as if we want to see where you're racing or see how you did, that kind of thing?
I usually post on Facebook, like where I'm racing. Um, Saturday mornings, I usually post like what track I'm going to and when we're heading out. I have Instagram too. Um, those two are the main ones I usually post on about racing, but
And,
Facebook for one.
and then is it just your name, Jazmine Reames?
Yes.
Okay. So
Um,
spell your last name so people can find you.
Reames is Reames.
Okay. Yeah.
Um, well, I just got married, so it's Jazmine Reames Roberts.
Yeah.
Oh,
That's why I wanted you to tell me what it was called.
sorry.
So
Yeah.
yeah. So your Facebook is Jazmine Reames Roberts.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
far,
Okay.
so I forget sometimes. Oops.
We won't tell your husband that
Yeah.
you said that. No, not at all. And yeah, so it won't be long. We'll be starting here. This is the end of January, and you'll probably start sometime in April.
Yep. We usually. So I think I want to start at New Paris opening night as long as my car is done. Um, but if not, then I'll have to start later in the season. I
Okay.
chose not to do a full season this season because I want to go to different tracks.
Mm-hmm.
Not stay at one track every weekend. I want to see if it's going to be like less overwhelming. You know,
Yeah.
because like I feel like going to the same track every weekend, you know, dealing with the same people, and I want something different.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
I'm gonna try to do, maybe every other weekend I can race at a different track and just go from there.
Yeah. And there's nothing that's good. Diversity is good for sure.
Yeah.
To do that.
And
So
losing championship kind of took a big toll on me.
I can tell just from the conversation with you
it,
that it
it,
took something out of you a little bit.
yeah. Like I'm still racing. Don't get me wrong. I love it. I'm still doing it. I'm not giving up on it because
Right.
last season proved I can do it.
Oh, absolutely.
100% to a T proved that I could get championship again. but it took a toll on me because, I messed up that one night. So now I need to learn from that, and
Mm-hmm.
I can't give it up now.
No,
You know,
absolutely not.
I'm out there, I'm just getting started in my book,
Yeah. And you're so young. You got to keep working at it. Yeah, for sure. Well, Jazmine, is there anything that we haven't talked about that we should have that you want to share, or anything about you or your car or your racing, anything at all?
I think we covered everything.
Okay. So when you post on Facebook, tag Women's Motorsports Network. That way I can follow you easier.
Okay.
You'll come up in my feed, and then I'll be able to see where you're going. And if you're coming to Kalamazoo or Galesburg or somewhere where I might be, then that'll give me the heads up for that for sure. And yeah, stay in touch. And I'd love to kind of follow what you're doing. New Paris isn't that far for me to go. I've been there a few times, and I know the people that own it. They're great people. So
Yeah.
I'd love to come back down there at some point. And
We usually put on a good show out there.
they do. They really do. Yeah, for sure. Well, I appreciate you being on today. And if you just hang on after we stop recording, then I've got a little paperwork to do, and then I'll let you go and enjoy this nice cold day in Indiana. Yeah. All right. Thank you, Jazmine.
Yep.
That's it for this episode of the Women's Motorsports Network podcast. We hope you've been inspired by the stories I shared today and feel more connected to the amazing community of women in motorsports. Remember, whether you're behind the wheel, in the pits, or cheering from the stands, your story matters. And together, we're driving change and celebrating every milestone. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to subscribe, leave us a review, and share it with someone who loves motorsports as much as you do. And don't forget to follow us on Facebook and Instagram for updates, behind-the-scenes content, and more incredible stories. So until next time, stay inspired, stay connected, and keep racing through life. This is the Women's Motorsports Network podcast, where every woman's story is worth celebrating.